Hey everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Cultivate Corner. I'm really happy to be here with you today, and of course we're here with my good friend Jerry Curtin, president of Cultivate. Jerry, great to see you again.
Good to see you too, my friend.
Right on. And I see you brought a guest, a friend of mine as well, Dr. Bria, but why don't I give you the honors of sharing with us who Dr. Bria is and why is he hanging out with you?
Sure. Yeah, it's good to be with you again, Jason. We've talked here for a couple of different sessions about what the Cultivate program is, but I thought it might be interesting to talk to one of the more experienced doctors that we work with. The Cultivate program is definitely designed to help chiros in a lot of different stages of their career. But one thing that I'm particularly impressed about Dr. Bria is when we first met about 3 years ago now, almost. He was already running a very successful practice and arguably could have been very, very fine without Cultivate. But his foresight and the way in which we've shared the vision of this business and what we want to do for the chiropractic profession, I wanted maybe some of our listeners to hear from a guy who's already doing a great job and is take a look at this corporate on-site chiropractic business model and says there is definitely something here more for us as a chiropractic community to bring to our folks. So I just thought it might be good for folks to hear Dr. Bria say, what was he interested in? What did he learn along the way, and perhaps maybe even how it's changed his business.
I love that. I think I'm obviously Jeremy, Dr. Bria. You're doing amazing stuff in Wisconsin, so we've spent some time together. I'm glad that you're here. Let me just ask Jerry, before we go in, just briefly give us, for those that have never seen the Cultivate Corner before, just a brief overview of exactly what Cultivate is, maybe just for new visitors, new watchers to just know what we're talking about.
Yeah, and the quick sort of 60-second version is this business is designed to bring wellness at a corporate program level on-site to local businesses in all of our communities. We deliver that on-site wellness solution with two people, one being a chiropractor, two being a wellness coach. No matter what size the company, it very rarely requires full-time presence by either the wellness coach or the chiropractor. So the way in which all boats rise with us is that we take chiropractors, they donate anywhere from usually like 10 to 16 hours of their week to the corporate client. That visibility inside the corporation grants access to hundreds, sometimes thousands of new people. And at the same time, if we're managing both our Cultivate business and the doctor's practice well, we're going to see all of the dependents and all of the spouses eventually funnel back through those offices in the local community. So my initial vision was to provide wellness solutions that actually work for employers, that get people better and save them money and make business better, but to work with some of the best doctors that are in the country to help their practices grow. And together, I think we share the same mission of how do we get more Americans to appreciate the wonderful benefits of chiropractic and bring it to them in its most accessible space, and that is where they spend most of their time at work.
I love it. You said that perfectly, and I think that's a perfect transition. Of course, speaking of one of the best doctors, best chiropractors in the nation, Dr. Bria, why don't you share with us your experience so far? What interested you in getting involved?
So like many chiropractors that are probably listening to the call, I really was interested in serving more people, serving the people that I serve, and then making a larger impact in our community. So with a highly successful kind of an associate-driven practice, if you will, and I don't like to use that term, I wanted to be able to step outside of the four walls of my practice and get more involved in the community. And the best way to do that is to get inside those corporations and to start making an impact there and allowing those families, like Jerry talked about, ripple in from those businesses or those corporations that you're in.
Absolutely. It's a genius idea. Of course, it's all in the execution of it all. What have you experienced so far? How's it working for you?
So I'm not going to lie, in the beginning it was a little rough because we had to adapt. It was a new model for us, so our attention started going towards that model. And we did see a slight dip in our practice as you bring on something new. And nutrition was something new for us, and it's kind of how we came about meeting Jerry and his team through his tour at Standard Process. We were going to try to do this on our own, I developed another company with my business partner, Rob Eiler, called Innate Wellness Centers. And he kind of fell in love with the model that Jerry was currently running at Cultivate through standard process here. And we thought, why are we trying to recreate something that's already been created? They already have the research. They already have the proof. The proof's in the pudding, if you will. And we just saw a great opportunity to kind of piggyback off what they were doing. And we had some systems and processes that they felt were necessary in order to go on site and be successful, because we were doing it already in our practices. And that's kind of how the relationship developed. The dip in the beginning just came because our attention started focusing on that. But as we brought on the nutrition, we actually grew our nutritional supplement sales 110%. We weren't doing a lot, so that number may sound a little bit misleading, but it did grow 110% as we started to move in that direction. And now it's continuing to grow, and our practice has picked back up, and we actually are growing the model through the Cultivate model and on-site, being on-site, and also through the communities.
So let's dissect this a little bit. I mean, I think people who are primarily focused on speaking to right now, are practicing chiropractors or soon to be practicing chiropractors who are exploring different possibilities. Either they may immediately understand the value and potential impact and power of going on site and working with employers, or they're just curious. Let's walk us through a little bit of what's the process. You learn about it, you go to a certification program and so on. Walk us through kind of what happened for somebody that's curious as to, what does this really look like? What do you do?
Yeah, so for us and our doctors, it was all about, like I said earlier, making that impact. So I think we were the first group to go through the Cultivate training. We were kind of the guinea pigs, if you will. That training is very beneficial. It helps you build some business acumen, because unfortunately, a lot of the chiropractors aren't very good businessmen. But it helps you build that acumen and able to go in and maybe utilize or cultivate your Rolodex, if you will, of companies that you have or leaders in the community that you can talk with to try to get to the table, just to start to even get the conversation rolling. With healthcare costs, $9,100 per person a year, the cost of insurance for them, the premiums are going up. It's just crazy. We're living, 17% life expectancy, spending 3 times more money. Business owners, and most of them that I find are, self-funding. They're interested in hearing what you got to offer and kind of bringing healthcare back into the employer's hands and allowing them to control their healthcare money and their healthcare fund, especially with the direction that healthcare is going with our friend Obamacare.
So what I love about what you're saying is, and from my perspective is, we know several things that are undeniable. One, employers are, at their max, desperately seeking solutions to reduce healthcare costs. That's undeniable. We know that.
Yep.
2, they're filled with people that have all kinds of health concerns, employees that have health concerns that are also looking for solutions. So, we know they need your care. They need chiropractic care. I think, what Cultivate is really solving for, Jerry, which I think you've done really a miraculous job doing, is creating that bridge. Here are employers that are looking to save money. They have employees looking to be healthier. Here's a profession that traditionally just doesn't understand the language, the lingo, the lexicon, the strategies. There is a different culture in the HR department in corporate than perhaps we have as practicing chiropractors. Go ahead.
No, I think you nailed it, and you were asking how, right? And part of the how is chiropractors are under scrutiny all the time in terms of their ability to demonstrate outcomes, not just at sometimes an individual level, but really from a population standpoint. If we took every doctor around the country and we talked about their practice in terms of their patient population as a whole, we would be having a very different conversation as a profession as opposed to talking about just our individual experiences with patients. When a corporation understands that the key to wellness is to start taking care of your body and then looking at what you're putting into that body as the absolute 100% foundation of all health discussions, then you ask yourself, well, which healthcare practitioner is best suited to talk about the whole body and nutrition? And we can just go right to the facts. The facts are, any chiro university around this country, you're going to get more nutrition and dietary education than you will in most other medical colleges. And you're going to get the most comprehensive, integrative look at a human being from head to toe. Now, you combine that, which is a big challenge, because most corporate folks, just like the rest of the population, only about 10% of them have the exposure to chiropractic. But when we explain the outcome-based effort of a chiropractor and then translate that back into a language of business productivity, you can talk both languages successfully at the same time. I can make Jason better, I can make Dr. Bria better, and at the same time, let's look at these business metrics. All we have to do then for Cultivate is provide the systems and the tools and the right training so that these fantastic doctors can just come right into the program and do what they do best and not be overwhelmed by administration, compliance standards, HIPAA compliance. All of that is built around. And the business folks just want to know, I don't care how good of a doctor you are, I'm assuming that's the case, can you handle all of these business regulations and standards? Typically, a chiropractor on their own would have to invest an extraordinarily large amount of money to put that kind of infrastructure together. So, we just worked with a lot of people that are successful out here, like Dr. Bria, taking our business insight, and as you, I think, really rightly put it, we provide the bridge for the doctors to come in and still be successful, but yet the companies have the certainty and the understanding that they're going to get ROI, because that's how they make all of their decisions. So when you can talk both of those two languages and sort of get married in the middle, it works.
Yeah, there's not a lack of funds in our healthcare system right now. We know that. It's truly a lack of leadership, and I feel Cultivate brings that leadership to the table, especially when you're sitting in a boardroom and you're making healthcare decisions and you're a chiropractor that's kind of heading in that direction and kind of spearing that conversation. It's huge, and a big compliment to Cultivate that I feel personally is that it allows vitalism in chiropractic to go into the workplace rather than a mechanistic type of practice. And I know someone might say, well, you guys are doing nutrition, you're doing exercise. Well, there's nobody else better to spearhead that, any other doctor, than a chiropractor. And Jerry just kind of hit on that. So that's another 2 cents of mine.
Yeah, no, I love it. So, again, we're talking to, practicing chiropractors primarily. So let me ask you, Dr. Bria, I guess, what I'm thinking most practicing doctors are thinking, A, what was it difficult for you to do? B, how have you grown as a chiropractor individually? And then, of course, what's the outcome been for your practice and so on and so forth? So, what are your thoughts? What do you think chiropractors need to know about your experience?
So was it difficult? If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. You got to put your headspace into it, and it can be a distraction if you allow it to be. But if your focus is on serving and serving above self, and you truly want to make an impact and grow outside of the four walls of your practice, I don't care if you have $1 million practice or $2 million practice. We have a doctor on our team that has a $5.3 million practice, and he loves the model and loves the idea. So is it difficult? No, but you do got to put in the time and the effort and the work to get trained and get certified, and also go through the training that they put on here at Standard Process.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Jason. I think what we'd like to say is what a lot of what our mamas told us. There are no shortcuts. You have to put in the work. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it. That's why we don't jump off bridges when our friends go first, right? So I think what we'd like to do is just say it's possible. It's possible for every doctor, if they really wanted to expand their practice, to consider even some of the skills that are required to go on site naturally help private practice. And part of what we like working with Dr. Bria is that there's a sense of business acumen and business respect here that is allowing both of these businesses to come together. And as we partner, we're clearly making both businesses much, much better. Yeah. But you have to put in the time. You have to, invest in the relationship. You have to be able to invest in yourself. And when we start talking about skills and aptitude, it takes time to build skills. It takes time to demonstrate expertise. But we'd like to say if you come in with a great foundation, it's possible for everybody.
Right. I feel you no longer, we're running on this campaign in chiropractic, of shifting or moving the needle. And, we don't need to shift to move needles in this profession. We need to become the needle. We need to make the change. And I think when you start to think outside that box and those four walls, and I say that often of your practice, you can truly make a difference way bigger than you ever thought was even possible. For me personally, you asked Jason, I feel I've developed into a better entrepreneur. I've been able to, take my business acumen and raise it up a notch. I contribute a lot of that to my business partner for helping me do that. But as a profession, we got to start thinking a lot bigger, not just a little bigger, but a lot bigger. The number is 4% of the population or whatever, 3 to 5, whatever that number is. We don't need to be complaining that, you're taking my practice members and I'm taking yours. It's just, there's a lot out there, and we need to get out there and we need to get our message out there about vitalistic chiropractic and the results that we can make, not just in the practice, but to these companies that are, supporting our communities.
So this is a question for both of you. Dr. Bree, I'll ask you to answer it first, which is, who do you think, you mentioned Innate Wellness Centers. I'd love to hear more about that. But who do you think is the right type of chiropractor to want to get involved, and who is not the right type of chiropractor to be involved in this?
I think that's a great question. I think the right chiropractor to get involved is one that wants to go further, that has a successful practice, that's not looking for another way to make another dollar. There's a lot of shiny objects in the chiropractic profession that we can jump on. This isn't a shiny object. You got to put in the time, you got to put in the work, but the results are, they speak for themselves. The chiropractors that shouldn't be are the ones that are maybe just getting out of practice, have no idea how even to open a practice or run a practice. I feel strongly that it's an associate kind of a driven practice, like I mentioned earlier, that would be the most successful, because you're going to have a wait time. So you're going to have to go on site, because it's all on site, because Jerry is smart, brought visibility on site so you can see it and feel it. So you're going to have to be able to close your practice, and if you're one guy, that could kill you. So you got to be careful with that.
Yeah, I would just add that that dynamic is there every day, and it's a great discussion to have, which is you've got more opportunities to serve more people, which means your business can grow. How do you want to grow it? Is it growing it just by dollars and cents? Is it by selling supplements? Is it by adding another modality? Is it by having some of your bills paid by a corporation? It doesn't matter, but there are a lot of ways in which to do it, and I think the first and foremost, sort of doctor who's right is a doctor who's very comfortable in their ability to practice chiropractic. They know that they can get fantastic outcomes with patients, but they're just not quite sure they want to do this for the next 15 or 20 years. How do I add more spice, some diversity to the business model? And I think you hit it right too, Doc. The doctors who are probably not in the sweet spot are doctors who have maybe fallen into that rhythm of trying a lot of things and having limited success, looking at this as maybe just another opportunity to save a practice. Yeah. I think I shared this with you once before. I don't mean any disrespect by that comment whatsoever, because running your own private practice is one of the hardest things any entrepreneur can do. But we really do understand that in order for Cultivate to be successful, and using a doc like Doc Bria to be on site, my client survives based on his practice also surviving. So it's very much my interest to help his practice thrive and survive and grow and do whatever it can do, because if he's not doing well, my Cultivate business isn't doing well. And I think, again, the way we drew this up from inception was that was going to be the basis of our strong partnership. Yeah. We both had to be able to win. And I think we do a good job of demonstrating that.
Yeah, I think we're doing a great job.
What I'm hearing from you, and I know from just my own experience as a practicing chiropractor, is that there tends to be a sort of a journey as, in practice, where, you get out, you start, and, you identify yourself as the technician. And you do that for several years. You sort of master it in many cases. You're great at doing what you're doing. But, myself, I think yourself, and probably lots of people listening, you sort of get to a point where you go, okay, now what's the next level of growth? You mentioned entrepreneurship. Sometimes you recognize the reality that It's not necessarily a business, it's kind of a job because you're only making money when you're actually doing the work. It's just the reality of it from that standpoint. And that this now, really does, for those that want to evolve into, and it's a choice, it's not a judgment, but want to evolve into really building a business, not necessarily being the only one responsible for doing all the adjusting all the time, diversify your opportunity. And Jerry, I think you said really well too, create more, new things. I mean, just to grow and be curious and be interested in growing beyond sort of the day-to-day stuff. Some people can master that stuff and stay there. God bless them. People like myself, we need to, and I think you too, Dr. Bria, there's like, okay, what's the next challenge? What's the next summit? What's the next peak? So yeah, I hear you loud and clear.
One thing I want to add real quick, and I think when the doctors do go on site, from our team, they have more sense of worth. They become part of the company. They're not just like, hey, there's a chiropractor down the end of the hall, and he's going to go in and rack and crack your back and neck. Yeah. They become part of something, and they truly become part of that culture. I've seen it firsthand with our doctor, Dr. Tony. We had a huge event, and the company next door was actually the company that we're on site with, and they invited us all over to go party with him because he became part of that culture. So when he's out in the community, he's not just saying hi to his practice members and their families, but he's running into the CEO of the company, and he's getting invited to go out on their boat on Lake Geneva, and et cetera, et cetera. So he really gives them more sense of worth, and not that we need that to tap on our backs, but it's a great feeling to have.
Well, and that, these days, credibility is your currency. So, now, Dr. Bria, you mentioned earlier, the results speak for themselves. I'm not putting you on the spot for anything detailed or anything that, isn't appropriate to share, but I'm sure listeners are wondering and don't want to assume you're seeing more new patients, you're making more money, you're making a greater impact, yes?
Yeah, for sure. Hands down. The biggest area that I mentioned was in our supplement sales, because it wasn't something that we were so focused on, and we're not 100% focused on it, but it was something that we understood needed to be brought more attention into the practice, because if we're going to go on site and do it, we got to be able to do it in the practice. Yeah. If we're going to grow a practice, we got to be able to grow on site, because you got to be able to educate those employees that come in and see you and get checked and start to learn what wellness truly is, because they think it's because they feel good or look good, and then you're doing an assessment on them and you're letting them know, hey, this is not how you look and how you feel. Look where you're functioning. We're talking about functionality and using the core score, David Fletcher's technology, and we're measuring things, and we have metrics. So we had to also adapt in the office, because we can't just go fake it to make it over in the corporation, if you will.
So that's made your practice better and so on.
Right.
You mentioned earlier, how would you describe to listeners, your practice style? You mentioned Innate Wellness Centers and, what you're up to. Share that with us. What is Innate Wellness Centers? What kind of style of practice do you have?
So I like to refer to them as lifestyle, family-based practices with an emphasis in pediatrics. We revolve around vitalism. We have an umbrella of offices throughout all the way to Vancouver, Washington, with Paul Reed as one of our Innate Wellness Center doctors, and we have Eric Naputi in St. Louis, Missouri, and then we have our 4 offices here in Wisconsin. So it's an umbrella of the like-minded, if you will, that are out there to serve above themselves, and they're serving for the right reasons. It's not for a more paycheck. It's actually to make an impact and make a difference. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think when I ran into to Doc, he was all about the family. He was all about the family practice, and I thought, his idea around taking care of the whole family unit, the whole person, the whole community. I just loved all of that. But, he mentioned something that I think is kind of eye-opening for anybody, which is if you're a smart business person, you realize you have to just be open to new ideas, and you have to be open to looking at ways in which you can do things better. When I was talking to his doctors not long ago, before we were doing nutrition, we were talking a lot about treatment plans, X amount of visits for X amount of chronic issue, acute issue, so on and so on. And it wasn't just about the money with the supplements, but what we talked about for a while was that nutrition was changing that patient conversation. It was turning much more into a lifelong conversation. And now he had another tool on his belt, apart from the adjustment in the care plan, that reinforced a long-term commitment, reinforced a longer-term care plan. So it doesn't really matter, where you're at on that pendulum. But what I would fully expect to see out of Doc's office over the next year is that you're going to see patient retention go up along with things like supplement sales. And I think it's those sorts of things where you can be doing a lot of things correctly. But if you're not looking out for what other people are also doing well and taking the opportunity to try it out, to test it, to incorporate, you're missing so much opportunity. So again, I love working with guys who are already really smart, already running really, really great practices, but are also so yet incredibly humble and understand that there's just so much more we can be learning from each other. So as a business person, I love talking to awesome doctors who are great at running a practice, and we just hope that we can offer them something in return as they teach us about how to be great doctors and deliver awesome results.
Well, let's kind of close up with that. You love talking to them. If they would like to talk to you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Easiest nowadays is just go right onto the website, Jason, www.cultivateonsite.com. If you go down to the bottom of that page, there's a little section on the bottom for chiropractors. You click on there and it'll just ask you how you want to be contacted. For those that are interested, we have a certification class that is a three-day class that Doc was referring to. Our next class is in the month of October in the great city of Chicago. So you can take as much action as getting into the next class. But if you're just a doctor out there who's interested and you're wondering what is life like on site, you fill out that form. We can also get you connected with some of the doctors that we're working with. So you can have a doctor peer-to-peer conversation, much like we had here today, but we offer those sorts of experts up for any of the doctors who are interested in taking a look.
That's awesome. And Dr. Bria, if people want to learn more about your practice in Innate Wellness Centers, how would they look more information up about you?
Yeah, so you just go to www.iwcdoctors.com and you can check out our whole platform. I mean, we're doing some interesting things. We're working with a fellowship program to help drive fellows into the practices so we can get them cultivate certified even before they walk across the graduation stage.
Wow.
I think this is going to put us at the forefront working with some of the more vitalistic schools with that. So we're really excited about that. But yeah, just iwcdoctors.com. And I'm on there. You should be able to reach out to me directly if you have any questions, and I'd talk to you further.
Right on. I love it. Well, I think you both know, and for our audience who may or may not know, I wrote a book about corporate wellness and how, chiropractors going into the workplace really is, the ultimate solution to America's healthcare crisis. They're looking to save money. They need what we have. We've got the services. We've got the talent. We've got the skill. What we have not yet had really is what Jerry brings to the table with Cultivate On Site. It's that training and almost translation. It's a new language that they speak, that if we can just learn how to speak that language and then obviously learn, how to culturally adapt to their needs, as you're proving, Dr. Bria, and many of the others, this is a remarkable success in the making. So I'll give you both the option to, leave us with some final thoughts, and then we'll close and say thank you.
I just want to say thank you, Jason, for taking this time to get us on here, and hopefully we touch some lives and touch some more chiropractors that kind of start to think a little bit bigger. I shouldn't minimize that. Just think bigger, period. And check us out. Check out the Cultivate website. The training is great. I'm just going to put this out there. Paul Reed went through the training. He was a little hesitant on it. He actually really loved it. He enjoyed it. He got some great feedback, and he went back and was really excited about implementing Cultivate into his 5 practices. So it's great stuff.
That's awesome.
I don't know if I have any more words of wisdom that would add to this conversation, but we like to serve much like the chiropractic community likes to serve, and we just hope that together that we can serve so many more Americans with better health care and better choices up front before people get sick. And I think when chiropractic is now understanding that serious business people are learning about what they do and are having more and more faith in what they do, then the onus is on the chiropractic profession to be ready to make that call to action when this voice of working in a corporation gets louder and louder. If we're better prepared and if we have the right skills, we could be exactly the healthcare change that this country needs. So we will humbly serve and humbly keep our doors open. Thanks, Jason, always for the opportunity to talk to you and your viewers. And Doc, thanks for a few minutes.
For
and
sure.
You add a lot of credibility to our discussion, and I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks both of you. I appreciate it. And of course, thank you for watching another edition of the Cultivate Corner. We will speak to you another time. Thanks for watching.